In the quaint and picturesque village of Willowbrook, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering willows, there lived the most extraordinary cat. His name was Whisker. He was an adorable tabby whose life revolved around the cobblestone path that wound through the village. Every morning, as the sun spilled like liquid gold onto the stones, Whisker would stretch out his fluffy orange body, reveling in the warmth. His emerald eyes, shining with mischief, would sparkle as the sunlight filtered through his intricately detailed stripes, casting dancing shadows on his chubby belly. The villagers adored Whisker. They'd pause in their daily routines, smiling as they admired his perfectly groomed fur and expressive face. For them, he was more than just a cat. He was a furry resident, a local celebrity. But little did Whisker know that his life was about to change in ways he never imagined. One crisp autumn afternoon, as Whisker basked in a patch of sunlight, a weathered postcard fluttered down onto his paws. Carried by an autumn breeze, it landed at his feet. On it was a picture of a majestic desert city. Towering cacti stood guard, their arms reaching towards the sky, and in the distance, purple mountains painted a breathtaking backdrop. The scene was so captivating that Whisker, with his curious nature, simply had to investigate. "Phoenix, Arizona," he read aloud, his whiskers twitching with excitement. Whisker had heard tales from traveling birds about this mysterious desert oasis, and the postcard sparked a thirst for adventure in his feline heart. He gazed at the winding path before him, then back at the postcard. 10 days, he purred to himself, studying the picture with his bright, intelligent eyes. I could make it to Phoenix in 10 days. And with that, Whisker's adventure began. The next morning, after saying his goodbyes to the villagers, Whisker set off toward the east, eager to start his journey. But before he could take many steps, he knew he needed a plan. How will I get to the desert? He wondered, looking back at the village. He considered hitching a ride on the back of a truck again, but decided he'd need supplies for the road. That's when he had a brilliant idea. He would ask the villagers for help. Whisker spent the morning visiting his favorite spots in Willowbrook, charming the residents into giving him little trinkets that he could use on his journey. He convinced Mrs. Henderson to pack him extra treats for being such a good boy, and charmed Mr. Thompson into giving him a small water bottle that he could carry in a tiny backpack the local children had made for him during craft time. By lunchtime, Whisker had everything he needed. He took one last look at his favorite sunny spot on the path. His fluffy tail swished with determination as he padded toward the village outskirts, his orange fur gleaming like copper in the cinematic lighting of the afternoon sun. As the days passed, Whisker's journey took him across vast landscapes. He rode on the back of friendly trucks,
Charmed his way into cozy barns and slept under the starlit sky, feeling closer to the universe than ever before.
His expressive face and playful demeanor made him an instant favorite wherever he went. At truck stops, he'd perform little tricks for treats and belly rubs.
In barns, he curled up in hay bales, dreaming of adventure.
On the second day, while resting in a farmer's barn,
Whisker met a wise old tomcat named
Rusty. Rusty had seen more miles than whiskers on his body, and was full of stories and advice. "Don't trust every friendly face," Rusty cautioned, "but always let kindness warm your heart." Taking Rusty's advice to heart, Whisker continued his journey. By the 5th day, Whisker's path led him to the base of the majestic Rocky Mountains. The sight of snow-capped peaks and lush valleys filled him with both excitement and trepidation. "The mountains are my next challenge," he murmured, his whiskers twitching with determination. The ascent was tough. Whisker's chubby frame wasn't built for high-altitude hiking, but with each step, his spirits soared higher. He befriended a family of mountain cats, who taught him shortcuts through the passes and showed him which streams had the freshest water. The mountain cats also shared stories of the world beyond the mountains, tales that fueled Whisker's determination to keep going. On a particularly cold night, seeking shelter from the biting wind, Whisker curled into a perfect orange ball, his detailed fur providing insulation that would make any Pixar animator proud. In the morning, a family of campers stumbled upon him, fast asleep in a cave. Touched by his vulnerability, They took a dozen photos before gently waking him with bacon scraps. "You're a long way from home, little one," said the woman, her voice filled with concern. "Are your people looking for you?"
Whisker purred softly, his stomach rumbling with gratitude.
"My adventure is far from over," he meowed, licking his chops. "But thank you for your kindness."
As Whisker continued his journey, the mountains gradually gave way to vast plains.
The air grew warmer, the grasses greener, and the sky bluer than he'd ever seen it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Whisker came across a group of desert tortoises. They were basking in the fading light, their ancient eyes twinkling with wisdom. Whisker sat among them, sharing stories of his journey so far. The tortoises, in return, told tales of the desert that stretched before him. By the 8th day, the air had taken on a dry, dusty feel, and the sound of crickets filled the air. The landscape had transformed into a sea of rust-colored earth, dotted with prickly pear cacti and saguaro sentinels. The sky above was a brilliant blue, broken only by a few white clouds. Ahead lay the majestic purple mountains, their peaks touching the sky. Whisker's heart raced with anticipation. He was on the threshold of the desert. On the 9th day, Whisker reached the foothills of the Purple Mountains. The air was cooler here, and the scent of pine filled his nostrils. As he began his ascent, the desert unfolded before him like a wrinkled blanket. The mountains in the distance seemed to shimmer in the heat haze, their rugged outlines softened by the shimmering air. It was here, amidst the towering saguaro cacti and the endless expanse of the desert, that Whisker truly felt the immensity of his journey. The challenges he'd faced, the landscapes he'd traversed, and the kindness he'd encountered had all led to this moment. Just as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the desert floor, Whisker spotted a roadrunner perched on a nearby rock. The bird tilted its head, regarding Whisker with keen eyes. "Well met, traveler," the roadrunner greeted, its voice surprisingly melodious. "Where does your journey take you?" Whisker explained his quest to reach the desert city of Phoenix. "Why, that's my home territory," the roadrunner exclaimed. "I know these parts like the back of my beak. Follow me and I'll show you the best path to Phoenix." And with that, Roadrunner took flight, soaring into the azure sky with effortless grace. After a few hours of walking, Whisker heard a faint sound in the distance, a distant hum that seemed to rise above the desert's hushed tones. The Roadrunner suddenly swooped down, landing beside Whisker. "We're almost there," he chirped, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Can you hear the music? Follow me!" Together, they continued on, the Roadrunner leading the way and Whisker following with eager steps. Finally, as the last rays of sunlight kissed the desert's rugged face, they reached the top of a small rise. And there it was, spread out before them like a jewel amidst the desert's embrace. The desert city of Phoenix sparkled with a vibrant energy. The evening air was alive with the sounds of crickets and the distant hum of city life. The Roadrunner perched on a nearby cactus, regarding Whisker with a playful twinkle in his eye. "Here you are at the edge of town," he said, his voice echoing in the twilight. "Your grand adventure has led you to Phoenix, just as you wished." And with that, Whisker stood at the edge of the desert city, his adventure complete. But as he looked out at the sprawling cityscape, bathed in the soft glow of dusk, he knew that for a cat like him, with an unquenchable thirst for adventure, the journey was never really over. His emerald eyes shone with a newfound determination. Now that he'd reached Phoenix, who knew where his next adventure would take him? The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. For a cat with such a playful heart and inquisitive nature, the world was his oyster. With a flick of his fluffy tail, Whisker turned toward the city lights, ready to explore all that Phoenix had in store for him. His cartoonish features and adorable antics made him an instant hit with the locals. The city buzzed with stories of a cat who'd walked across mountains and deserts, all for the sake of adventure. Whisker, however, was never one to rest on his laurels.
Though he basked in the adulation of the townsfolk, he also yearned for new horizons.
And so, as the years passed, Whisker the Explorer became a legend in Phoenix. a legend that whispered of courage, determination, and the endless allure of the unknown. For those who knew his tale, Whisker's journey served as a constant reminder that even the smallest of cats can embark on the greatest of adventures.